Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Absolute Flash issue 2 by Jeff Lemire, Nick Robles and Adriano Lucas. Wally West's world continues to be upended as his guilt over not being able to save Barry Allen continues to drown out his thoughts. Wally though is broken from his thoughts when he remembers his father, knowing that he needs to find him. The drones from Captain Boomerang soon find Wally and Captain Cold tells Harkness to flush him out, sealing off all of the exits from the cave with his ice gun, so Wally will fall right into their trap. I like the Rogues all are a military unit this time, and it seems like they all seem to work together really well. They aren't fighting with one another over leadership, or who should be in charge of killing a Flash, like we sometimes see in the normal universe Rogues. I like they all seem very well put together as well. They all seem like they know their place in the team and what they bring to the team as well. The drones chase Wally through the cave towards the exit where the other members of the squad, Jessie and Golden Glider, are waiting to take him out. But when Glider goes to hit Wally with her energy battens, time slows for him and he is able to dodge right between them. It's fun to see super speed from two different perspectives. First we get Wally where his world just turns completely red, his voice gets all slowed and he's covered with an energy. That's contrasted by what Glider sees, which is just this blur of red and yellow in front of her. The speed lines are also a nice touch as well, and I like how they aren't complete, like they've got breaks in them, kind of like they look like Morse code. And it's like Wally is still learning the powers, so he's not, fully there yet, so there's breaks in the lines that tell me he's not at full power yet. It's a cool little visual. Now Glider is shocked at what Wally can do, giving chase alongside the drones as Wally finds the speed feels like he's going to explode if he doesn't keep moving. He has to let it out. And I wonder if this is me reading a bit too much into it, but in the first issue I said that Wally kind of shows signs of like being on the spectrum, whether ADD, ADHD, anything like that. And I wonder if this is like his version of like stimming, like he has to like do that repetitive movement of running, or what it brings him to like kind of get rid of that sensory overload and the pain that comes from seemingly holding this speed force in him. He has to kind of run to like let that out. Wally tries to run from the Rogues, but Cold brings him down by freezing his feet to the ground. They advance on him, but Wally's anxiety is triggered again thanks to his need to keep moving, and lightning bursts from his body, causing a huge explosion that takes out the drones. Wally finds himself blasted into the past, one day to be exact, when he's caught up in the swirl of energy inside Barry's lab. Barry tries to grab Wally's hand, but Wally pushes him from the speed machine, causing it to power down, but in doing so cuts the feed of energy and causes Wally to all but disappear. Barry doesn't get a moment to catch his breath as Rudy West arrives in the lab, accusing Barry of doing something to his son. He attacks Barry, beating him almost to death, but Wally suddenly appears as a strange red lightning beam. What Lemire is doing with the chaos of the Speed Force, or whatever this speed power actually is, and Wally, the guy who doesn't like the chaos and unpredictability of life coming together to form one being, is really quite cool. It feels like that old saying, the opposites attract, and from what we've seen, Wally and how his anxiety often gets the better of him, he's the complete antithesis of the chaos of the Speed Force. The energy around Wally soon explodes and leaves him, if not but for a moment, but Barry uses that time to grab the boy and tell him to stay there in the moment, focusing on him. This also hints that obviously Barry kind of knows what's going on. He knows what is happening to Wally, and he's trying to ground him in the present so he doesn't end up shooting himself into the past or the future like he has been doing. Wally, however, thinks that he's still in the present and is being attacked, so he blasts Barry back. I wonder if this is the moment that Barry is killed. It was a complete accident, he's messed up because of the Speed Force and still thinks he's in the present when he's actually in the past. And if that's the case, that's actually kind of cool because it's the present messing with the past, when usually you get stuff like it's the future messing with the present, or the past and the past messing with the future. It's never like the other way around. It's really interesting what they're doing with the Speed Force and how it reacts with time, and how time is presented as like not a fluid moving stream like it usually is. Wally is kind of jumping around everywhere. It also feels really different to how the Speed Force is just in general used, because usually the, traveling through the time in the Speed Force is only really used in the big events or the, the crisis events, because if you do that for every story, it kind of becomes, old hat. You could just, say they do it in every story then. But I like how Lemire is presenting it here, where it's not something that can be just like done on a whim. It's just something that just seemingly happens to these characters, and they don't really have a control over it, at least yet. Wally is returned to the present, where Jessie saves the rest of the rogues from the explosion with force fields. She tells the team that she was right when she said that Wally was messed up and they need to deal with him now. She captures Wally in one of her force fields, and we learn a little bit more about the team's mission, which is to bring him back to Fort Fox, where he'll be cut up and experimented on just like Mick Rory and her kid named Raymond. I'm a little sad that it's implied that Mick might be dead. I think it has been confirmed we do get Heatwave in the book. I think the guy we saw at the end of the last issue that I thought was originally Tar Pit was actually Heatwave, was this universe's Heatwave, so maybe he's alive and gets turned into a giant monster. Hell, maybe it's someone else who is Heatwave. They also mentioned someone named Raymond, and it's really interesting since that could kind of be several characters. It could be, the Atom, it could be Ray Palmer, it could be the Ray, Raymond Terrell, or hell, it could be Raymond Jensen, who was once Parasite. It's really cool that there's like all these different choices for who this person could be, and I have to imagine it's going to be someone related to the Flash or like Flash adjacent, so like Ray Palmer or the Ray. They are kind of associated with the Flash a little bit more than other characters, but it's fun to speculate who it could be. Wally doesn't want to go quietly, vibrating out of the force field before taking off across the desert. Glider chases after him and catches up and goes to grab him, but Wally suddenly accelerates and dashes away from her. Again, the speed lines are used to really great effect by Nick Robles, and I love just this moment he pours on the speed, these lines that we've been seeing just get thicker and bolder, like more power has been unlocked and he's kind of put the pedal to the metal, so to speak. Thanks to going faster, Wally enters the time stream, beginning to fall apart inside of it. As he runs, he sees himself in Barry's lab, then with his mother and father celebrating a birthday. Wally's anxiety begins creeping back as he begins to see a time where his family were all together. A time where he wasn't broken and jumping through times and can't stop running and has to deal with this power that possibly killed a mentor figure of his. The minute I saw Wally was able to see this and see his mother again and see like parts of his life that he wanted back, I immediately thought like, oh, he's going to try and pull like a flashpoint or something and try and get there. And since Lemire's dialogue strongly hints that he wants to go back to that time, we are quickly actually pulled out of that as Wally is shown two separate futures. One where he becomes a costumed hero called the Flash, and another where he becomes a speed monster that destroys the world. The book has done a great job teasing what's to come with this series, and I like the possibility that we are probably going to get both of these futures. The way that, Wally has just been like careened through time into the past, into the future, I'm sure we're definitely going to get the future where obviously he becomes the Flash and becomes the hero, and then they'll probably have to fight the monster version of himself or a variant of him that went down that timeline instead of the heroic one. Wally is soon spat out of the timeline again and back into the present, where the Speed Force calms down and gives him a moment to wonder. What is he becoming? Unfortunately, the rogues are close by and Captain Cold is tired of dealing with the freak and wants Boomerang to release Grodd. Boomerang reluctantly activates a cage and out of it comes a small cute little monkey, which doesn't seem to know what it needs to do. Now, we were kind of spoiled with the Grodd reveal in the first issue, which is a shame since this reveal is so good, since if this was our first look at Grodd, you'd think we'd be getting a giant gorilla, since Robles Art does this really cool thing where you only see the creature's eyes and it's drawn in such a way to imply that like they're a much bigger creature, and then, it comes out of the cage and it's this cute little green monkey with an exposed brain, and it's a cool design too. I really like how different it is from the usual giant gorilla Grodd monster that we usually get. Kind of reminds me of both Ultra Humanite as well as oddly Mojo Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls, mostly thanks to the exposed brain. But I'm really excited to see what Grodd's role in this was, especially since issue 1 teased that him and Wally will become friends or at least allies in some way. So I'm intrigued to see what that turns into and whether Grodd actually ends up becoming a good guy in this universe. Absolute Flash issue 2 continued the time travel weirdness as more of Wally's chaotic origin is revealed alongside the reveal of the Rogues and Gorilla Grodd. I thoroughly enjoyed this issue's use of time travel and the mechanics behind it, and how the future can affect the past, present, and vice versa. I do hope in the coming issues we get more of Wally's thoughts and processes, since it was rather pulled back this issue compared to issue 1, and I really like how in that first issue it dug into his anxieties and how he views the world and how he processes all of that sort of information, and it felt like here it kind of pulled back a little bit just to be able to explain a couple more things, so hopefully we get to see a bit more of that in the coming issues. I'm going to give this issue an 8.5 out of 10.